Can a budget TV really come close to the likes of LG, Samsung, and Sony's best, or should more affordable TVs be given their own category and held to a different, albeit lower, standard? Well, that's what I want to find out in today's review of TCL's 5 Series 4K QLED TV. TCL's 5 Series is the brand's mid-tier line. It comes in 4 sizes ranging from 50 to 75 inches, though we're going to be looking exclusively at the 65-inch model. This TV features QLED technology and is a native 4K HDR display with full local dimming, not to mention support for Dolby Vision, HDR, HDR10+, and HLG. It has HDMI with eARC, giving it support for Dolby Atmos, though sadly no DTS:X. Speaking of HDMI, the 5 Series is not a next-gen set, meaning it does not have support for HDMI 2.1. All of its ports are of the 2.0 variety, which may or may not be a deal breaker for some of you straight away. Now, if you are a hardcore gamer looking for 120 Hz refresh rates, you may decide to shop elsewhere, as the 5 Series is a 60 Hz display. But on the positive side, it supports variable refresh rate as well as auto low latency in its game modes. Those of you looking to simply watch HD and 4K content in HDR needn't worry, so stay with me as specs don't always tell the whole story. The 5 Series is a smart TV available with your choice of Roku or Google TV. Ours is the Google TV model, which means support for Google Assistant as well as Chromecast built in, though the 5 Series works with Alexa as well. There is a whole host of popular streaming apps built into either platform, Google or Roku, and the included remote has hotkeys for favorites such as Netflix and Amazon Prime. The 5 Series is actually a pretty nice looking TV, sporting a minimal bezel edge-to-edge design, giving the set a more high-end appearance than some other, more budget-oriented TVs. I think the 5 Series looks notably better than previous TCL designs, but TCL has never really had an issue making a good-looking TV, at least not from an industrial design standpoint, they haven't. We've been using this TV as our daily driver in our primary bedroom for over a month, where it replaced a 65-inch Vizio OLED. Connected to our Sonos Beam Gen 2 and relying solely on the built-in apps inside the 5 Series, it has proven to be a pretty nice and intuitive setup for this type of casual viewing. And getting this TV set up is pretty easy. We chose to mount ours to a wall, though it comes with included feet, which we're showing here for demonstration purposes. Out of the box, the Google TV operating system is not what I would call lightning quick, as there are a lot of apps pre-installed, many of them falling into the bloatware category. Thankfully, you can uninstall most of them, which speeds things up considerably, but if you buy this set and think to yourself, damn, it's slow, know that it's not entirely the TV's fault, but rather the apps that weigh it down out of the box. Now, the TV ships in its low power picture profile, which TCL claims is good for everyday viewing. It's not. I'm not going to waste much time here. All of the factory design picture profiles are pretty bad in terms of their color accuracy. All of them have a noticeable blue shift to both their white point as well as their primary colors. I found that the best profile out of the box is Movie, though it too isn't very accurate. It trades blue for red, resulting in overly pink whites and warm primary colors. This is definitely noticeable to even casual viewers, though some of you may find it preferable as it injects a bit of artificial warmth into skin tones, which typically goes over well. Thankfully, the 5 Series can be calibrated. Well, sort of. I was able to perform a full calibration using the Movie profile as a jumping off point and achieved results that technically met the standard of calibrated, albeit just barely, with a delta E or margin of error for both grayscale and color just sneaking in under the wire at 3. That said, performing a 20-point calibration produced negative results when it came to watching real-world content. My hunch is that taking things to 11 with respect to calibration overly taxes the TV's processor, resulting in notable color artifacts like fringing as well as just excessive noise and some motion issues. It wasn't phased when viewing test patterns, but with real-world content like the Batman in Dolby Vision on HBO Max, it just didn't look good. The good news is that I found a suitable middle ground by resetting the TV to its factory default and selecting the Movie picture profile, and then setting the color temperature to -4. Know that -5 is actually the default. This resulted in a much clearer and artifact-free image. While my workaround would not be considered technically calibrated. When viewing the test patterns, it was almost indistinguishable from calibrated to the naked eye. So I decided to just leave well enough alone and move on. Now, in terms of brightness, the 5 Series is not a light Canon. It has respectable but not class-leading brightness when viewing non-HDR or even Dolby Vision content. I measured a sustained brightness of between 525 and 550 nits in standard definition, depending on the measurement window, though things didn't really get night and day better when measuring the TV in HDR. I wasn't able to break a 600 nit threshold. Going for broke, I only managed about 575 nits of sustained brightness, so if peak brightness is your thing, the 5 is not going to walk away with the W. Now, panel uniformity is good, but not great, as there is some vignetting in the corners when viewing an all-white screen. I actually noticed some reverse vignetting around logos, like when launching the Netflix app, where the area around the red N would actually appear darker than the edges of the screen, which isn't ideal, but something I don't lose a lot of sleep over because I watch shows on Netflix and not their launch screen. I found blooming to be largely a non-issue provided I kept the dynamic backlighting and or dynamic contrast settings to low or off. Setting either to high could induce a bit more blooming, something that was most noticeable when watching non-16:9 content or films with a 2:4:0:1 aspect ratio. With the 5 Series dynamic light setting set to high, films with black bars top and bottom could exhibit some blooming in darker scenes when watching real-world content. Though, with blooming test patterns, it always looked pretty good regardless of the settings, which is weird. I am not a fan of smooth motion, so I disabled all of the 5 Series motion interpolation settings, and I found the TV had organically smooth motion on its own without needing to subject myself to the dreaded soap opera effect. There is no filmmaker mode on the 5 Series that just automatically disables these features, so you will need to do it manually since they are on by default. The good news is, once you make the necessary adjustments to any of the picture profiles, they'll automatically transfer to all of the TCL's inputs, with one exception. Settings made when viewing SD content do not transfer to HDR or Dolby Vision content, sadly. When viewing Dolby Vision content, you are limited in what adjustments you can make. So at this point, you're probably thinking, this TV sounds pretty terrible. Well, the 5 Series, to me, is proof that specs and measurements aren't everything. While the TCL may be perfectly average on paper when measured using calibration tools, its day-to-day viewing experience, it's actually pretty good. Feed it an HD or 4K signal in the TV's movie profile, and I doubt many non-critical viewers would find much, if anything, to complain about. The 5 Series may not be a light Canon. It's still bright enough with both SD and HDR content that colors pop off the screen and look natural to all but the most discerning eyes. Skin tones were especially pleasing, even in the face of some pretty overt stylization, as was the case when Kristi and I binge-watched Severance on Apple TV. Detail rendering is good, bordering on great with the 5 Series, so long as you don't monkey with the picture settings too much. Similar story when it comes to motion. The 5 Series is a solid performer when viewing everyday content and even sports. In fact, I can't definitively say if the few subtle judders I noticed when watching the Final Four were the fault of the TCL or just a mild disruption in the broadcast. Now, when I took my reviewer hat off and I just watched some of my favorite movies and TV shows, it didn't take long for me to just get sucked in. Nothing about the 5's performance when watching everyday content was just that objectionable. My biggest complaint with the 5 Series is its slower power-up times, laggy menus, and frankly, just buggy implementation of Google TV. But these are minor annoyances that can be easily remedied by connecting either a standalone Google TV device or an Apple TV 4K to one of the TCL's HDMI inputs. The only other thing that I would add to the 5 Series is a capable soundbar. The built-in speakers they're not really good. They sound pretty tinny, but many TV speakers suffer from similar issues, so needing a soundbar isn't unique to the TCL. In my opinion, it's probably a bit unrealistic to compare a TV like the TCL 5 Series to a TVs like our reference Sony X95J. Hands down, the Sony wins. Though surprisingly, the 5 Series does a better job with respect to blooming. But aside from that, the Sony is better, and halfway into this review, it was likely as obvious to you as it was to me that the 5 Series wasn't going to upset Goliath. That isn't to say that the 5 Series isn't a contender when shopping other brands' entry-level and mid-tier sets. I think the 5 Series deserves to be mentioned alongside the likes of, say, Samsung's Crystal Series, Hisense's H8G Series, LG's lower-tier nanocell TVs, and even Vizio's M Series. Now, I'm not saying the TCL is better or worse than these options, as I have not tested them, but on paper, if I were shopping for any of the aforementioned options, I would definitely look at the TCL, which seems comparable based on the advertised specifications of these other TVs. While the 5 Series from TCL may not be a game changer with respect to reference grade viewing for well under $1,000, it is an absolute solid all-around performer for those of you who want to experience picture quality at a relatively high level without having to fuss too much over things like specs or settings. I think it's a great choice for secondary spaces like bedrooms or an office, and near ideal for everyday casual viewing. So that's it. That is now my review of TCL's 5 Series, but now I'm kind of curious what Kristi thought of it.
Well, for those of you who are still watching, I imagine that half of you probably stopped watching about halfway through because you thought this TV sounds like garbage. It's not.
No, it's
not. It's actually really good.
Yeah.
I don't have any issues with the performance, whether we're talking about the operating system. While yes, there are TVs that are much faster, but you're also going to pay for that. I wish that you could delete all of the apps that you don't maybe want to have on your TV.
Yeah.
But this is not a unique situation to TCL. I think when you're talking about more budget-oriented televisions, that's the trade-off, because those apps help pay for
they offset costs.
They offset costs.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So there is, just make sure you understand the trade-off that you're getting there. And
to be fair, even on our Sony X95J, and I believe the Master Series that we reviewed, I think it was last year at the beginning, those had apps within their Google TV implementation that they wouldn't let you delete either. Now, granted, they were all like Sony-specific apps, but you were stuck with them. So just because you're spending boatloads of money also doesn't mean that sometimes you're not going to be stuck with a little bit of bloatware.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I personally like Google TV. I'm so grateful that you have an option and you're not forced to use Roku, which I cannot stand. That is like the worst operating system in my opinion. And I know that there are people that like it, and it's probably because you're just used to it, but I personally not a fan.
Yeah.
But Google TV I think worked great. From a visual standpoint, I really like this television. We have a lot of windows in our house, so while it may not be the brightest TV on the planet, I think it was bright enough. Frankly, most televisions, when you really test them, the claims that the manufacturer makes in terms of brightness is typically like a pie in the sky number. It's not always realistic.
It's not real world, I don't think.
Expect when you're just watching TV.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. We're not sitting around watching test patterns unless you're like obsessed with specs and a nerd or whatever. And I mean, I don't know who does that unless you're a reviewer. So for me, I liked it. I really enjoyed it. I will agree with you. I think the sound of the speakers weren't good, but most TV speakers aren't very good. So no surprises there. Yeah. I liked it. I think I didn't really find anything wrong with it. I even liked the movie profile setting pre-calibration.
Yeah.
But I also like more pink tones in my skin.
Yeah.
colors.
You like a little warmth.
So that, like you said, that's going to be appealing to some people, me included. One thing that I want to mention that I really do like is the remote. The remote, yeah, I know. It's nothing fancy. There's like, it's not anything super, super special.
Okay.
But one thing that I really, really enjoy about this remote is that the volume buttons are on the side. So, this is great because we use this primarily in our bedroom and we're watching a lot of TV, often at night, and it's in the dark. The remote doesn't light up that I can recall.
No, not
really. There's not very many remotes that do light up, which I think is an epic fail. They should. All remotes should light up so you can see them in the dark. But when you're working with a remote that doesn't light up and you're fumbling around for the volume control. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm always changing the channel by accident. So having the control volumes on the side was just really great, especially so I don't have to, fuss with searching where it's at. And,
Apart from that, I mean, it's just an exceedingly easy TV to use and enjoy. And like I said, if we were outfitting the various guest bedrooms in this house, or like an office space or a den, pretty much anywhere outside of our main primary viewing space, I would have no problems with this TV in those rooms. And I don't think any guests would either.
Honestly, I mean, now here's the problem I have.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything wrong with using a TV like this in a main living room or a main viewing area. I don't really think that it's not like it's bad.
No.
Or not worth being out in a main living space.
No.
I think that we need to calm down a little bit when it comes to telling people where they should put a television. I think that should be completely up to the end user. There is absolutely nothing wrong with putting this TV in your main viewing space, your only viewing space, whatever that may be.
You're right.
I don't think that in other words, I don't think it needs a disclaimer.
Okay. You know what? Damn it. She's right. She is. She's right. Because that's judgmental of people like myself to say, put it anywhere but where like you're really going to watch. Because the truth of the matter is we really did watch content on this TV. We watched pretty much all of Severance on this TV.
I mean, when we were undergoing all of the renovation in the main living room, we were sequestered to our bedroom for like a month.
Yeah.
We had nothing. We didn't have furniture.
We did all of the Final Four on this TV.
Like the bedroom was our living room for a good long while. So while we watched it a lot at night, I did at least I had a lot of daytime viewing because I was stuck in there while we had people out here working. But yeah, I just think that while there are TVs that may work better as a like true, home theater type experience, I don't think that there's any hesitation, at least from my part, of putting this TV wherever you want it.
Well said. And I agree. Anything else? No. All right. Well, that is now our take on TCL's 5 Series. Now it's time for you guys to tell us what you think. Let us know down in the comments below. I don't really have a question of the day, so if you liked this video, please do give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe, and go ahead and ring that bell.
I have one.
Oh.
Well, I want to know what your favorite, more budget-friendly television is. Like, so say we're talking an apples to apples comparison. So say you have a 65-inch size under $1,000. What is your favorite TV in that particular category?
She's crushing it today. Crushing it. Okay. That's the question of the day. I didn't have one, and I didn't know that she had one. So like this video, do all the stuff. If you use any of the links that Kristi left for you down below, know that that's a great way that you've continued to show your support for this channel and the work that we do here. And both of us, thank you very much for doing that. Follow me on Instagram at Recovering Audiophile, and that is it for us today. So remember, the only person who has to like the sight of your TV is you, or the picture quality of your TV. I should have rehearsed this. Anyway, you're the only person who has to like what you buy. So enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you on the next video. Bye.